Multiple storm systems will be impacting the United States over the next couple of weeks, and we are expecting more snowfall and perhaps even the return of severe weather, and as well as multiple shots of cold air between now and early February. And we also could see another large storm that produces both a winter storm component and maybe even some severe weather as we get later into the month and into early February. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next couple of weeks, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country this morning. And the good news is that we are done with that historic winter storm that dumped tons of snowfall along the Gulf Coast of the United States. We had many areas in the outer banks of North Carolina also pick up near 8 to 10 inches of snow. Similarly, we also had areas like Milton, Florida that got near 10 inches of snow in a singular day, which also shatters the previous record for most snowfall in a given day, which was 4 inches of snow, which was also in Milton, Florida back in 1954. So this was a historic winter storm across the board. Many other records for daily snowfall were also broken in areas like New Orleans, but overall this winter storm is done and we are done talking about it. What is left is just dreary conditions. We are talking about some scattered cloud cover that continues to move across the Gulf Coast and also back through Florida, which is keeping things pretty, cold, and it's also not really allowing for any sunshine to peek out, which is going to continue to make things really kind of nasty for the next 24 hours before we eventually start to see milder weather return as we get closer to the weekend. Also back into the northeast, some cloud cover moving through those areas. A little bit of light snow flurries will be possible today, and then otherwise not really much is happening across the country. But one thing I do want to bring your attention to is another large wildfire that formed in Southern California yesterday. It grew from 500 acres all the way up to close to 10,000 acres in the matter of only 3 to 4 hours. This is what it is right here. This is north of Los Angeles. This is the Hughes fire. It is just to the north of Santa Clara. Lots of evacuation orders have been issued, and this map continues to update. You can check this out on fire.ca.gov. A lot of areas have been dealing with major fires in California for the last couple of weeks, including the Palisades fire. The good news is that the winds have been a bit calmer. They're not nearly as intense as what we did see only a couple weeks ago with hurricane force winds, but they are still strong enough to rapidly spread this fire. A few structures, from what I've heard, have been damaged. Prayers to anybody here in Southern California. This is just unbelievable. It's been a very rare event, especially for January with the Santa Ana winds. Hopefully, as we go into the weekend, there will be some more moisture and some rain that will start to limit the amount of wildfires that we see. Now, this here is crazy. This is the satellite imagery from yesterday afternoon with all of the snow that was on the ground across areas like Texas, Georgia, and back into the Carolinas, including Florida. This all here is cloud cover that was draping literally all of Florida yesterday. Notice that there is a lot of snow on the ground, and again, this is not something that we are going to see again probably for at least a few decades. If not, it could be a lifetime till we see a winter storm of this magnitude happening again. Again, take it in. If you have any snow on the ground still, definitely enjoy it while it's out there. I'm not saying you won't see a snow again for a few decades, but in general, a winter storm like this is just so rare. Now, you're probably wondering, when is all the snow going to melt? Well, most of it will be melted by tomorrow afternoon. If it's not already melted by today, a lot of the snow is going to melt by tomorrow afternoon. The only areas that have any snow left over will likely be Georgia, South Carolina, and areas in eastern North Carolina. By the way, areas like Iowa and even back into the Dakotas currently have less snow on the ground than areas like Louisiana and Florida. Just take that in for a second. That is just insane as we are in the middle of January. Now let's talk more about the big weather pattern changes that'll be coming to the United States over the next couple of weeks. And these weather pattern changes are vastly different from what we've been dealing with this entire winter so far. So let's begin with the jet stream, which are the upper level winds. And today the jet stream winds are very strong from Texas all the way back into the northeast, which means if you are flying on an airplane today, maybe from Florida to the Midwest or vice versa, there is going to be a lot of turbulence as the winds are very strong aloft. But as we go later into Friday and Saturday, the jet stream is going to change quite a bit. Look at how flat these winds become, west to east flow, which means that we are going to be dealing with zonal flow in the United States. And what this usually does is it brings milder weather to most of the country, in addition to a lot less extreme weather events. So we will have a much calmer weather pattern this weekend for the majority of the United States. But one thing I want you to look at here on Saturday is this little dip in the jet stream over here, back over on the west coast. And this is important for a couple of reasons. First off, we are expecting some moisture and some showers and thunderstorms in California on Saturday and Sunday, which means that this will help with the wildfires, but any thunderstorms that develop could spark new fires. So that's going to be something important to watch for. The second thing is that this particular trough will be very slow moving all the way into early next week. Look where it is by Monday of next week. It is still basically in the same area. It does intensify though just a little bit here back over on the west coast, but this will likely be the next big storm in the United States once it crosses crosses over the Rocky Mountains and moves towards the Great Plains, the Ohio Valley, and then even back through the Dixie Alley as we go into the middle of next week. Notice by around Wednesday of next week, that trough is moving over the Rockies. And what is very interesting about this particular disturbance is that it is taking a very similar track to the winter storm we had a couple of weeks ago in areas like Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, where we ended up having upwards of 12 inches of snow. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see the same exact impacts because those two storm systems are vastly different. However, this is going to be taking a similar path as it moves into the Central Plains as we go into Wednesday, and then eventually beyond that, things become a lot more uncertain, but it is likely that this storm system will have some sort of daily intensification, basically meaning that it'll start a bit weaker and then intensify over time. By the end of the week, we could be talking about some sort of big storm system, but keep in mind that this is still around 6 to 8 days out, so it makes forecasting confidence a little bit lower in that particular time frame. And then beyond that, things become a lot more uncertain, but the GFS model is hinting that we could have even more Arctic blasts as we go into early February. Now let's talk more about what's going to be happening across the United States in terms of rain and snow events. Beginning with what's happening this weekend, there will be a little bit of light to moderate snow that moves across the Great Lakes region as we go into Saturday. Not really going to be much in terms of accumulation, but something to watch for. Also some snow showers in the Rockies and also some rain being possible back over in California Saturday and as well as into Sunday. Eventually into Monday into Tuesday, things do get a little bit more interesting down near the Gulf Coast as there will be some moisture coming out of the Gulf, which should eventually lead to some showers and maybe even a few thunderstorms. Snow and rain will continue back over in the Four Corner states in Southern California, which is very beneficial for the wildfires that are happening there. And then by early next week, we will have a winter storm occurring back over in Canada. This does not appear as if it'll be impacting the Midwest, but it could impact the Northeast as we go into late Monday, Tuesday, and as well as into early Wednesday. May bring several inches of snow to areas in the Northeast. Exactly where that snow falls and how much falls, still a little uncertain as we still are a few days out from that. And then by the time we go into Wednesday, that is when that disturbance moves over the Rocky Mountains and into the Southern Plains, where we do expect at least some showers and thunderstorms Tuesday and Wednesday along the deep south and along the Gulf Coast as well. This will likely become some sort of winter storm as we go into the later half of the week and eventually into the weekend. This is what the GFS model has it doing, more of a snow and ice event back over through areas like the Ohio Valley and then back into the Northeast. But again, we are still over a week out from this. There will definitely be changes to the forecast, and exactly the magnitude of this winter weather event remains uncertain, and also where it sets up. This is the Canadian model, which also shows a winter weather event happening next week with this disturbance that moves over the Rockies. But look how much further back to the west this has it by around Friday of next week. So again, forecast confidence is very low here. I am confident, though, that we are going to have our next winter storm more than likely at the very beginning of February. But again, where it sets up is, again, just very uncertain at this time. And for what it is worth, this is the European model by the middle and end of next week. It does have that same disturbance forming back along the Gulf Coast right around Thursday and into Friday, and then eventually explodes into a huge nor'easter by the end of next weekend. And keep in mind, this is around February 2nd and 3rd. There is definitely confidence, in my opinion, that there will be some sort of winter weather event at the tail end of next week or into the weekend, but exactly where it happens and how much snow falls, all that sort of stuff is very uncertain. At this point, I'm just giving you an early heads up that I do think our next winter weather event will be sometime at the first week of January, probably on the first half of that week. But again, how large it is, how much snow falls, we just don't know. It's anybody's guess at this point. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest and all the details that do end up evolving with this as we eventually get closer. And another big change that is coming to the country over the next couple of weeks will be the temperatures. For the next 48 hours, below average temperatures will continue for most of the United States east of the Rocky Mountains. By Saturday into Sunday, another small shot of cold air will move in the Midwest and as well as back through the Central Plains. But notice how most of the colors here are very dull, meaning really mostly white here, either very light blue or very light red. That means we're going to get back closer to average temperatures as we go into the late weekend and into early next week, before eventually by the middle and end of the week, I think things get a little bit more interesting. We'll have another shot of cold air back into the Northeast with that winter weather event that is likely around Tuesday and Wednesday. So be prepared for that if you're back into the Northeast. We are going to see more cold weather by the middle of the week. And then by the end of the week, warm weather builds in the Southeast and as well as the Northern Plains, before eventually, as we go into the first week of February, I think the weather goes haywire once again. Typical winter type stuff where we're likely going to have another big Arctic blast at some point. Again, this is over, 2 weeks from now, so we don't exactly know what's going to happen here. However, I do think there will definitely be at least one, if not two, more Arctic blasts here over the next few weeks. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit the red button down below and subscribe. We are closing in on 1 million subscribers, which is just insane to think about. I appreciate appreciate you guys all trusting me for your latest weather information and watching our videos and live streams. Just a heads up, I don't think I'm gonna have a video tomorrow unless there are some big changes to the forecast or if we have some big news to talk about. Otherwise, it's gonna be pretty quiet this weekend, so enjoy the nice weather. We'll be back probably Saturday with another video update on whatever it's gonna be happening as we go into the middle and end of next week.